showed this seemingly, according to Elant News, who's in the chat already, appears to be in the vicinity of IDF headquarters. We don't have enough information coming yet. Obviously, Israel also has deep censorship laws. I mean, even though they got hella smartphones out there and there's like literally Israeli chatters in here who can just like confirm or deny what's going on. Okay. I'm going right into it. Iran has launched its counterattack. Ladies and gentlemen, there are clouds coming out of Tel Aviv. In the night sky, like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. We're going to take a look at everything. Do not Fed post in the chat. Do not Fed post in the chat. That is crazy.
The conflict and saying he respected Israel's right to self-defense. That coming to us in the last few moments, apparently from the Times. So we'll keep across that situation. As you can see, the Iron Dome, the defense system that Israel deploys working successfully at the moment. Citizens across Israel have been told to go to shelters. Alerts and sirens have been sounding across the country. Keeping across the situation in Jerusalem and indeed Tel Aviv, that footage there of smoke rising on the horizon. Well, just 6 months ago, Iran's foreign minister told Sky News that Israel would be crazy
not an idiot immediately defend Israel ongoing terrorism.
Since then, including a nuclear deal proposed by Washington and a new assessment of how close Iran is to making nuclear bombs.
I can't believe they're still talking about this. Jesus Christ. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look. Al Jazeera. Smoke billowing in Tel Aviv after a barrage of missiles targeted central Israel.
In Israel, and judging
the Iranian retaliation has started, ladies and gentlemen.
That looks like it's a residential area. We still obviously don't know if there's anyone been injured, but this
I think it's going to be limited. I think it's going to be restrained. I don't think that it's going to. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Iran has the smoke. But perhaps I'm wrong.
It absolutely was. And in fact, we heard from the Israeli Prime Minister, from the chief of the National Security Council.
Do we have a blast-off meme? Chatters, do we got a blast-off meme or not?
To mitigate, in order to limit the amount of damage that Iranian retaliation can do. And so there was an expectation of a very violent response from Iran. And this...
Oh, Bibi's on the run?
You know, as we've been hearing from military experts and analysts in Israel, is the beginning of such a response. We don't know, like I said, we don't have confirmation.
Can you imagine if
Greece, on the location,
a signatory of the ICC, if Greece turned around and arrested Benjamin Netanyahu? Please, for the love of Christ and all things holy, for the love of Allah, for the love of all the gods, okay? Could you imagine a world where during this Iranian retaliation, it's an excellent five-head play, an excellent 5D chess move, where Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, flies. Hold on. Anyway, as I was saying, I can't believe you were talking so highly of Greece and you call yourself a Turk. I mean, guys, I'm desperate, okay? I'm desperate for justice. So, yes, in desperate times, even a Turk such as myself will hope for Greece to do the right thing and not assume that they will be cowardly participants. Except they are going to be cowardly participants, let's be real. But I'm just fantasizing.
Is in a state of emergency. Schools have been shut down since the early morning hours. Businesses as well. Everything by way of a normal daily routine has been halted, and only the very basics, the more than crucial activities are being allowed to proceed, including public transportation. That it's only being allowed to be used if absolutely necessary. Hospitals are on high alert. They've been told to clear as many beds as possible.
Medics in Tel Aviv, no initial injuries reported. That is expected.
Medical attention in smaller facilities. So there are those precautions, there are those preparations, plans that have been in place for months, if not years. They keep being updated on a regular basis because attacking Iran has been central to Israeli foreign policy, certainly under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu for many, many years. And the Israeli bureaucracy, the Israeli army is ready in terms of planning of how to respond, how to anticipate and try to mitigate any kind of damage to civilian infrastructure.
Okay, thank you very much, Noor Al-Day, for that update on the latest that you're seeing, the situation that we're seeing in Tel Aviv with those explosions. We're still getting more information now. Iran has launched hundreds of ballistic missiles towards Israel, and that's according to the Iranian news.
ABC special report just started.
Uncertainty and certainly one.
God damn, dude.
For the kids and possibly here.
Right, well, moments ago, the skies of Tel Aviv were ablaze as Iran fired a barrage of missiles.
We heard the radio announcement on the loudspeaker, like we've heard before, telling people to get to a shelter, and we'll be here until we get the all clear, and when it's apparently deemed safe to be able to leave this shelter here, Diane.
And Martha, we had already been told that there were plans underway to potentially try to
Israeli
get
Ministry of
American
Defense headquarters has just been struck. Okay, there's going to be a lot of fake news that's flying around everywhere, by the way. Obviously, first of all, let's blast off. I just dove right into it. And there's a lot of backstory that I have to cover, but obviously the breaking story is happening at this very moment. Had to get into it immediately. But yes, moments ago, Iranian missiles were launched towards Israel, and from what I understand, multiple have not been successfully intercepted. Remember, this is a multi-billion-dollar operation. You got Tamir interceptors that are for the smaller munitions, like, and you have the Arrow systems in Israel as well. But then on top of that, you have anti-defense systems to protect Israel and Jordan, and you have the entirety of the American Central Command working actively to stop, working actively in real time to stop all of these from touching a hair on the head of anyone in Israel. And even then, in spite of all of that, Iranian missiles have been able to penetrate into Tel Aviv, as you have seen before, and they're still doing it. I mean, you can see it. Look, the ones that are flying from the ground are the interceptor missiles. They're anti-defense systems, and yet, in spite of that, the Iron Dome can be overwhelmed, as the Iranian retaliation showed. This seemingly, according to Elant News, who's in the chat already, appears to be in the vicinity of IDF headquarters. We don't have enough information coming yet. Obviously, Israel also has deep censorship laws. I mean, even though they got hella smartphones out there, and there's like literally Israeli chatters in here who can just like confirm or deny what's going on. But I think last time when this happened, the Israeli military immediately applied censorship and tried to stop the information from coming out, like confirming strike targets and whatnot. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because obviously in the interim there is going to be some misinformation. There's going to be a lot of misinformation flying around as always. So just, you know, be aware of that when you're bringing in information here, and try to go after trusted resources. I suspect that Iran is not done yet. This barrage is just simply the first salvo. There will be more that comes. They have to, in terms of self-preservation, self-defense, and ensuring that they do not get completely eviscerated. I suspect that the Iranian government's calculation here is going to be part restrained, so not so aggressive that they actively try to take out like heads of state or anything like that. Just like Israel itself demonstrates some of that restraint in comparison to how belligerent they are when they don't actually go after you know, heads of state and stuff like that. But they a big chunk of the military command, they some top military officials, some nuclear scientists in residential areas. I don't know the exact number of casualties in Iran due to the Israeli strikes, But there was a relatively sophisticated infiltration campaign that Mossad had conducted, as far as I understand. This is not like glazed to Israel at all, but I think it also shows a weakness within Iranian national security that directly stems from the resentment that the Iranian population, some in the Iranian population, have towards this administration due to its fundamentalist attitudes, especially amongst the Iranian youth, and also the fact that the country is in turmoil economically, and it's much easier to basically purchase allegiances internally within Iran. The fact that Mossad was able to create a drone shop inside of Tehran, from what I understand, and then utilize those drones immediately to take out anti-air defense systems that Iran has, and then go after the missile salvo, goes beyond the notion of Israel gets to do whatever it wants and can use overwhelming force because they're backed by the most powerful country on the planet. Obviously, that plays a major role. There are no repercussions for Israel, but make no mistake, the very fact that they are able to build a drone facility, like a tiny drone facility, inside of Iranian national boundaries implies that there are massive leaks within the IRGC, within the Iranian government, and that they can take advantage of the Iranian population's discontent to a certain degree. So this is a major problem for Iranian sovereignty in general. This is a major problem for Iranian security, and I suspect that a big part of the reason why this is even taking place, or even took place, is because of that glaringly obvious weakness, one that I have even mentioned in the past. The regime's attitude and fundamentalist attitude specifically, paired up with the economic sanctions strangling the economy of Iran and causing volatility, creates a major weakness that the Israeli intelligence has clearly exploited. Now, like I said, does Iran have the capability of really punishing Israel, like doing the deed, right? Doing the thing that people are worried about, understandably, like killing a bunch of civilians or potentially even assassinating like heads of state, or even simultaneously activating sleeper cells that I suspect they might have internally inside of Israel, as they did last time around. No, it's not, of course, not situation. It's more so governments have tremendous power. Does Israel have the power to assassinate the Iranian head of state? Yes. Did they do that? No, not yet, at least. Okay? You forget. Just as Iran has more power than what it is showing right now. Okay? Israel calls for regime change all the time. There's a difference between calling for regime change for decades and then actually forcibly decapitating the regime. The idea that Iran does not have enough prowess or enough power to be able to really deal a massive blow to Israel, in spite of Israel's unimaginable defense capabilities that we are paying for, by the way, the answer is they could. It's more so a matter of do they want it? Do they want the American response that will come in retaliation? Are they willing to withstand? Are they willing to go to the unimaginable? Are they willing to go to the place where maybe it's World War III, Because Israel's goal, very clearly in unison with the United States of America, because Israel and America are not separate entities. They work alongside one another. They're hand in glove. Israel and America is the same, okay? I need you to understand this. This is a very important thing that people refuse to recognize. This is the reason why I kept repeating myself over and over again, saying Donald Trump and Israel are like this. There is no real divide. The only divide maybe could be from how narcissistic he is. But beyond that, in terms of foreign policy goals, this is not Israel's doing. This is America's doing. America is the primary responsible party here. America and Israel are like this. They are one inseparable unit. Israel is simply America's wishes in the region, America's grand design in the region. Okay? That's precisely the reason why myself and a few other people in the process of like Donald Trump doing his like Middle Eastern conversations, in the process of like getting Edon Alexander, it was like myself, Zay Squirrel, I think it was like 4 other people that were like, this is bullshit and it's most likely not going to amount to anything, in spite of the fact that plenty of very smart commentators were still assuming that there could be a real separation between Israel and America here, but it was not happening. It was all just smoke and mirrors. And very clearly, the negotiation process, I said, the negotiation process was being used to basically develop this perfectly crafted this perfectly crafted strike against Iran, a fairly sophisticated military campaign that they've obviously been implementing, that they've obviously been planning for quite a while. They don't get to do this without America's go-ahead. They don't get to do this without America's logistics. I'm talking about Israel, of course, and what they did last night. And I covered this extensively when they struck Tehran and they struck the nuclear facility as well, one of the nuclear facilities, and killed a bunch of nuclear scientists and also high-level IRGC commanders. Now, while Iran does clearly have the targeting capabilities of striking Tel Aviv and overwhelming the Iron Dome, as we have shown, Iron Dome is not the only defense that Israel has. There's numerous defenses. Will they actually deploy enough munitions to really punish Israel, to really actually show Israel their prowess and force Israel to back away, force Israel to back down, especially now that Israel has communicated, as we covered yesterday, on numerous occasions, that they are invested in a much longer military campaign here. Okay, because they called the American troops to move away from Bahrain and Kuwait. They called the embassies to pull out. Americans did, knowing full well that Iran was going to retaliate. And then the Israeli government came out and basically said, this is our big, last, final huzzah. This is the thing that they have been waiting for, attacking Iran and pulling America into the battle and basically going to war with Iran is the final design, is the final piece of the puzzle for Israel and America's ambitions in the region.
They cannot think that they've hit us and it's over. No, they started this. And now they've launched a war. We will not let them get away with this large-scale crime. The forces of the Islamic Republic will deliver huge blows to the Zionist regime. My dear people should know that we have no shortcomings in delivering an answer to this.
Right, well, let's unpack some of the incredible pictures that we're seeing that not only have been coming out of Tel Aviv. You can hear those air raid sirens there warning people to get into their shelters, but we've also been seeing Israel attacking Iran also in the last few hours. Let's go to our senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara from Paris. Marwan, we're just hearing those air sirens. Anyone familiar with the area will know that that usually means attacks, missile attacks most likely. And it seems now Iran has confirmed that there is a second wave.
It was actually interesting that the Iranians decided to respond so quickly, so speedily to the Israeli bombing last night. Clearly, the political, the strategic, and even the public relations damage caused by the Israeli bombing was as such that the Iranian government had to respond as quickly as possible in order to restore some kind of a confidence in the government and in order to show that it is capable of responding to a sudden, unprovoked Israeli bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, I think, as you were saying earlier, I'm not sure if it's residential, but certainly if Iran is attacking civilian infrastructure in Tel Aviv, then I think that will continue to change the equation and perhaps allow for even greater escalation moving forward.
Marwan, when we're looking at those live pictures, what we're seeing now is those missiles
Israel's
being
awful, but their
intercepted,
air
but not all
defenses
of them
paid
have,
for by the
because,
U.S. are really
there has been a
impressive.
fire, that's what we've
Yeah,
seen,
it's ours. We are doing this. That's why I'm saying this is a. That's why I am saying this right here. What you are experiencing, what you are watching, is our doing. This, we paid for it, we built it, we did the R&D. This is what we are doing. I can hear the interception above my house right now. We allow the Israeli state to be as violent as it wants to be. We want the Israeli state to be as violent as it wants to be. Israeli racism that actually allows, and the dehumanization of Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims alike, makes it feel like Israeli society is on board with everything that's going on, and to a certain degree they are, right? But that is just making it easier for America to enact its ambition in the region. Israel and America are not separate entities. Do not mistake. Make no mistake. Israel and America are not separate entities at all. Okay? This isn't what is it? The tail wagging the dog situation whatsoever. It's not like, oh, this is the Zionist occupied government or whatever the people say. Okay? Everyone in it is a Zionist in the sense that they are like pro-Israel because they're pro-America, and their calculation is, as Joe Biden very famously said, if Israel did not exist, we'd make one. Okay?
Is capable of defending against long-range missiles from the likes of Iran. But certainly, if Iran decides to launch a whole bunch of them against one particular angle, it's going to be very difficult for Israel to fend against all of them. So predictably, some will eventually fall. And that and by itself will be a new development for Israel, whereby such huge missiles would be able to, create damage in the city centers of Israel. Now, in as far as the United States is concerned, now we have to ask ourselves a whole bunch of questions because our old assumptions no longer work.
Also, remember, Israeli society is designed for this as well. Obviously, the Iron Dome has created a ridiculous sense of comfort for Israeli society that who knows how they'll react to this level of disruption. Having said that, however, they knew that this was going to happen, and they very quickly said, essential services only, we're fighting Iran, we're going to strike Iran, we're going to go to war with Iran. Like, it was a basic war declaration, right? And they knew that there was going to be retaliation, which is why I assume all the fucking, the remaining anti-Zionist Jewish Israelis in my chat right now are probably watching from a fucking bunker. There are protections for this. Right? You have the Iron Dome, you have the Arrow defense systems, you have numerous incredibly expensive defense systems. They are not infinite, though. They do not have infinite ammunition. They have the THAAD, they have the Patriot, they have American defense as well, working alongside the Israeli defenses. They have the Jordanian defense that is also intercepting missiles and drones. David Sling is another one as well. Just something to consider. Iran's air defense is now actually working at intercepting Israeli attacks. Yes, I suspect that they blew their first load. I don't know if there's more. I'm sure there might be, but oh, fucking Christ. The alert's busted again. Jesus Christ. Hold on. I'm getting an editor to look at it. Is it possible Iran could get some help from somewhere else? No. Iran has no allies. Russia is entirely too busy doing an illegal and unjustifiable occupation of Ukraine. Obviously. And China is a non-interventionist. At most, they'll offer some supplies. Who knows? But obviously, Hezbollah is gutted, eviscerated by endless bombing from Israel against Lebanon. And, there's no, it's just Yemen. And I believe Yemen this morning, before Iran even struck, actually turned around and sent a missile that struck I think the West Bank. It might have hit Hebron. Not sure if they actually hit a Jewish settlement in Hebron or if they actually hit a Palestinian Palestinian village in Hebron. But the entire axis of resistance against American imperialism and Israel in the region is incredibly limited. It's just militancies that Iran funds and offers logistics to and offers training to. And the takeover of Syria obviously played a major role in the supply chain, destroying the supply chain that... yeah, look, the Houthi missile fired earlier this hour was not intercepted according to the IDF. It struck near the West Bank town of Hebron. So with Syria being overtaken by an American asset, with Zelensky, former Al Qaeda, Zelensky, there is no sustainable way of sending munitions into Lebanon for Hezbollah to utilize against Israel now. Anyway, here's some images. It is also very interesting seeing like Fox News and Western media coverage over like some apartment complexes in Tel Aviv incurring damages, because like now you know how the media covers like actual human beings in a densely populated civilian area when they get bombed. Like they remembered that there are humans in those buildings. So it's also, the dichotomy is very interesting because like literally not even 24 hours ago, they were talking about how awesome it was that Israel was like, you know, launching this incredibly sophisticated campaign in Tehran. But once, once Israel gets penalized in retaliation from a sovereign state that it violated the sovereignty of, all of a sudden, everyone's like the horror, the shock. I can't believe it. Meanwhile, of course, Israel has been doing a fucking ethnic cleansing campaign that it even escalated in the last 48 hours in Gaza. Okay? Like that helmet is not going to help you, big dog. You know what I mean? Trey, what's that helmet going to do, Trey? It's not going to help.
Is Iran capable to, in its words, unleash so much chaos in the country there? Is it capable of doing it now, especially being hit by Israel?
You mean the West Bank? Wait, what? No, they're hitting Tel Aviv, big dog. The fucking clouds of smoke are coming from Tel Aviv. Obviously, the Yemen targeting capabilities are very different than Yemen's targeting capabilities are very limited in comparison to the Iranian targeting capabilities.
But in terms of those hits that left enormous craters just north of Tel Aviv, very close to the Mossad headquarters, you know, I was there on the ground, and when you saw the size of those craters, had that struck a building, you would be talking about incredible damage, enormous numbers of casualties. And so the Israelis did get quite lucky.
Soon in Tehran, Israeli minister poses with son of deposed Iranian monarch. Israeli Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Chikli shared a photo with Reza Pahlavi, the exiled Iranian opposition figure. Yeah, they're like monarchy. We're going to restore the monarchy so that you can have a democracy, a democratic monarchy in Iran.
Devastating picture in terms of casualties on the ground. You know, the sources that I've been speaking to in Israel over the course of the last 24 hours have all made clear that they expected that Iran's retaliation this time would look quite different, that it would be much more significant than what we saw in October. And while we certainly haven't yet seen that in terms of the numbers of missiles that Iran appears to have fired, at least according to the information we have right now from the Israeli military, it certainly is looking like those Israeli officials were right when they predicted a very significant Iranian retaliation. And then, of course, you have to keep in mind that this is likely going to continue for days, if not weeks. You know, the Israeli military, the Israeli prime minister has made clear that Israeli attacks in Iran will not be limited to a one-day operation. We have seen, of course, Israeli jets.
Yeah, that's the other side. Red Alert app in Israel has crashed. I mean, it makes sense. The entire fucking skyline is lit up right now. It's just... The Red Alert app is insignificant to use in the situation. It's just all Red Alert. Everything is red. Hey, Hasan, how can I explain to my Cuban mother that Israel is engaging in a genocide? I don't know. I don't know how, if they haven't figured it out by this point. I mean, just literally tell them all the children that Israel has murdered. And also, it is utterly irrelevant in this at this point. Like, that part is an utterly irrelevant piece of the puzzle here, okay? Anyway, If America intervenes, Iran should burn the Saudi oil fields. That is the nuclear option. The real nuclear option here that Iran has is not necessarily like actual nukes, but it's actually disrupting the entirety of global trade with its action against the oil refineries. Okay. The Skyline live, by the way, third wave coming soon. Yeah. So Netanyahu calls Iran strikes necessary to prevent the war he just started. I like that The Onion is trying to not be aggressive in its commentary, for the record. Wouldn't China intervene before it came to that? I don't know. I suspect. Okay. Iranian news outlets announce a second wave of missile strikes on Israel labeled Operation True Promise 3. In addition to military sites, the attacks are suggested to be targeting nuclear facilities inside Israel as well. The thing is, they don't have they don't have a reliable way of consistently pummeling targets targets inside of Tel Aviv, targets inside of Israel in general. They don't. So it's more so about overwhelming the defense systems to the best of their ability, while also having a couple of the missiles that they lobbed get through. Iran does not have a way of consistently striking inside of Israel in a way that like Israel has a way of, in the same way that Israel is allowed to do this, or Israel is capable of doing this, specifically because Israel can do precise striking. Israel can fly and get refueled on the way, all the way over to Iran, and make up that distance and use airplanes to directly, like jet fighters, to directly target inside of Iran, right? Iran can't do that. Iranian Air Force does not have the capability, obviously, and also Iran would have to fly over hostile airspace to be able to get there. That's never going to happen. So the only thing that they have at their disposal is missile strikes and drone swarms. Okay? Israel starts this. My friend, there's never been a moment where Israel hasn't started shit. Okay? Hold on. But yeah, second and third wave of ballistic missile strikes is making its way to Israel right now. How much is Jordan helping? A lot. You should stop reading chat. What do you mean? The hypersonics that Iran are using are not getting intercepted in great numbers. This isn't even about overwhelming the defenses. Listen. This is the decades happening, if you know what I mean. All right. This is the decades happening in weeks right now.
You can. What we're hearing from a spokesperson following the red alert sirens that have been happening across the country. The MDA teams have provided medical treatment in the greater
Mossad IDF's very own Barak Ravid, Israeli official U.S. forces participating in intercepting missiles in Iranian attack. Of course, I told you that that was going to happen.
We're seeing the damage done to the building there. This is a live shot of Tel Aviv. 5 injured individuals is the latest that we're hearing. 1 in moderate condition, 4 lightly injured by shrapnel. They have been evacuated to the hospital as we do await an update on them. As you can imagine, right now they're still responding to the scene there, Jen.
Well, it's interesting, and as serious as it may sound in terms of injuries on the ground, that is a very light casualty toll. If those individuals are not seriously injured and nobody has been killed, given that 100 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel tonight,
I'll be honest with you. Worst case scenario is America says, all right, it's time, and we're going to war with Iran. Best case scenario is Iran is able to deter Israel and America by way of Israel into backing down. Okay? Backing down, getting back to the fucking negotiations table and getting back to the bargaining. This is, here, I'll use an analog that white people care about, like Ukraine and Russia. Remember when we were talking about like how Ukraine did this like massive drone strike on Russian aircraft, the Russian bomber planes? And I talked about how sophisticated this plan was and how good it was technically to leverage in the negotiations process. Think about it like that, okay? I know it's going to be really hard for some of the white people to comprehend what I'm saying here because, like, you're like, what? You're comparing Ukraine, a Christian country, to Iran, the scariest nation on the planet? But, like, major forces like this, regional powers like this, whether it be the global hegemonic superpower, the United States of America, or a regional power like Russia, they only respond to deterrence. And deterrence only comes from force, okay? At its most basic form, might is right is the only thing that these guys operate on. So you have to issue penalties to the state that is enacting this violence. This is what Israel has shown every single country in the region. Therefore, the best case scenario is that this retaliation for a relatively comfortable Western adjacent nation like Israel is too much to bear, right? Because we don't know what this is going to look like. We don't know what the end point of the Iranian response is going to look like. We don't know how much they will be able to target military facilities or even like a nuclear facility, right? But in that process, if they are able to, or rather, even if they don't target nuclear facilities, what will Israeli society say when finally met with a fraction of the damage that their military conquest has pursued in all of their neighbors, in their entire neighborhood, whether it be Syria, whether it be Lebanon, whether it be obviously the worst version of this in the Gaza Strip? What will Israeli society do? Will they go, stop playing, stop gambling with our lives, enough is enough? Or will they actually respond with increasing militancy and an appetite for more death and destruction? That's another factor to consider here, okay? Same with the United States of America. Is this deterrence going to be enough for America to basically abide by the wishes of Israel, or for America to say, okay, we'll dial it back. We'll de-escalate here, okay? That line of thinking is very American. They like us have to taste for their own blood. Wait, what? No, I'm saying that the only way that the modus operandi here is responding to I tweeted this earlier, okay? I said Iran has to retaliate because Israel has shown that they only back down when met with deterrence. Do not let anyone tell you that this response was unexpected. Israel and the U.S. both knew it would happen. That's why they declared a state of emergency right as they blew up Tehran. Okay? The nuclear negotiations was, okay, don't send me Felix Biederman tweets today, okay? I can't respond. I love Felix. I'm talking to him privately, but I cannot publicly say anything about whatever Felix is posting. Don't do it. Look at the new video they're showing on Al Jazeera.
Issue and its unwillingness to make peace with the leadership of the Palestinians, of the PLO, and negotiate the two-state solution with them. But in that case of Iran, I believe that Iran has no case at all.
Hello there, I'm Laura Kyle. You're watching Al Jazeera's continuing coverage of a major escalation in the Middle East. Iran has promised retaliation to Israel's unprecedented attack, and it has begun. Just in the past hour, Tehran says it's launched hundreds of ballistic missiles towards Israel in 2 separate waves. The skies of Tel Aviv were ablaze. Israel says its air defenses are working to intercept incoming projectiles. Israeli media says at least 7 people have been injured. Now, Iran's supreme leader says Tehran will attack without mercy, saying Israel has, quote, launched a war.
Life will become bitter for them, without doubt. They cannot think that they've hit us and it's over. No, they started this. Now they've launched a war. We will not let them get away with this large-scale crime. The forces of the Islamic Republic will deliver huge blows to the Zionist regime. My dear people should know that we have no shortcomings in delivering an answer to this.
Ori Goldberg is an Israeli political commentator and is currently taking shelter following Iran's strikes on Tel Aviv. Now, he joins us from the phone from inside a shelter, so the line may not be terribly clear, but we're going to persevere and see if we can get an idea from him more the situation. Ori, just checking first of all that you can hear us clearly and whether you can tell us what's happening around you.
I can. I hope you can hear me. The entire country pretty much is sheltering. Although there are localized alerts, the general guidance to enter what is officially called protected state. When further notice will come is unclear. Apparently, there are either preparations for a third wave of missiles to be launched, or that third wave has already been launched.
We are indeed hearing reports here that Iran state television saying that a third wave of missiles has been launched towards Israel. Are you then able to access news and the latest developments from underground in the bunker where you are?
Well, I wish I was in a bunker that had such accessibility and a residential shelter. It depends on the shelter and depends on the building. There are shelters where the residents have taken care and have full access to sometimes like television sets. The one I'm in right now has access to AM radio, so we radio bulletins. But information through, and this isn't really a barrage that's landing, certainly on where I am at the moment. So the door is sometimes open to improve reception, and people, it's unclear how long we will be sheltering.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. Listen. Iran, at a certain point, Israel is not going to stand down. Israel is not going to back away. Israel is going to continue pummeling Tehran and killing people. I don't know what the actual number of total killed is in Iran right now from Israel's 10-hour bombing campaign. They dropped by the time I went to sleep, I was looking at it, it was like 300 munitions that they deployed. Okay? Insane. At a certain point, it's going to turn into a war of attrition. It's going to turn into two states with missile capabilities and targeting capabilities that are just going band for band, if you know what I mean. Iran obviously has the upper hand in terms of having a mountainous region and also in terms of having a much larger population. Israel has the upper hand in terms of unlimited supply. Well, I guess not unlimited, but like a much larger supply of weapons transfers, American targeting systems, American targeting capabilities, American military in the region as well. Having said that, in terms of like this being a tit for tat between Israel and Iran, Iranian restraint in this process is not going to be met with Israeli restraint in retaliation. It's clear that Israel is always interested in increasing the damage. Last time they blew up Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, or the time before that, they they shot the Iranian embassy in Syria, and then this time they directly struck Tehran, killing a bunch of civilians in the process as well. As of this morning, there's 78 people that Israel killed in Tehran, wounded 328, and the killing still hasn't stopped around the country. There's been nothing like this since the war with Iraq in the 1980s. Like, in retaliation, if Iran is doing like a much more restrained retaliation, then Israel will continue bombing out of Tehran. Here's a squirrel says, as Iran launches its retaliatory strikes, remember that Israel's intel and military headquarters are intentionally located in the middle of civilian areas in Tel Aviv, which by Israel's regime's own standard for Gaza makes everyone their human shields and legitimate targets. Schumer breaks the silence. Senate Dem leader Schumer on Israel's rising line operation. I've long said that Israel has a right to defend itself and that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The preferred path to preventing a nuclear-armed Iran has always been a strong, unrelenting diplomatic effort. Israel in 2021 built its new IDF Supreme Command in the command post in the heart of Tel Aviv, buried beneath blocks of civilian buildings. Called Fortress of Zion, it was deliberately placed so it couldn't be attacked without seeming to target civilian sites. Yeah. Projection, baby. projection. Remember when Israel was like, oh, they got human shields. They got human shields. And I told you when they were talking about Hamas, they have human shields. They have human shields. Pure projection. Pure projection. And it seems as though the 7 impacts that were counted all are around Tel Aviv in central Israel, and with one of the ballistic missiles landing near and causing damage to the headquarters of the Israeli Defense Force. Defense Minister Israel Katz says Iran has crossed red lines after it dared to fire missiles to civilian population concentrations in Israel. We will continue to defend the citizens of Israel and ensure that the Ayatollah regime pays a very heavy price for this heinous action, he adds. Bitch, you just killed 80 Iranians, man. Yesterday. It hasn't been 24 hours. Like, what is the expectation? That Israel has a right to blow up whoever it wants at any given moment. Whenever it wants, Israel can do it. And if anyone responds to that with a much more limited, with a much more restrained and much more limited strike, a retaliatory strike, then you're still in the wrong? Incredible. This won't calm down, will it? No, of course not. Of course not. 75 years of apartheid, military occupation, ethnic cleansing campaigns, numerous pogroms that the Palestinians withstood does not mean that that the Palestinians have any right to defend themselves at any given point. History started on October 7, as you know, and also history ended on October 7. Do not look to what Israel did since October 7. Do not, because that would be anti-Semitic. Okay? No, Iran was not unprepared. It seems like Iran was unprepared. It seems like they would do a better job of hiding their leaders of what happened in Lebanon. This shit is so gross. No, it's not that Iran was unprepared. I think the Iranian government is not a very popular government at all. And also there is tremendous economic instability in Iran, which also leads to further unpopularity beyond the fundamentalist policies that I think cause tremendous resentment, especially amongst the Iranian youth and Iran's allegiance or allies in the region like Assad are a leaky faucet, which I think played a formative role in Mossad operations being so successful, both for Hezbollah and also Iran, as opposed to October 7, where famously Yahya Sinwar did not inform Iran ahead of time, nor Hezbollah ahead of time of October 7. This plays, by my assessment, there are 2 competing theories on October 7. One theory is the idea that like Israel knew about it and they let it happen because they wanted to use this as like a final solution play. Okay. And the other competing theory, which is the one I believe, is that Israel's hubris made them think that this would be a manageable situation, that they would never be able to break through, penetrate the Gaza boundary and go into Israel and kidnap as many people as possible. Right. So I think it's the hubris side, and it actually plays. It goes back to the same thing that I was talking about. Like if Israel, if Mossad has unimaginable penetration in both Hezbollah and Iran, as they have shown that they do, right? Then maybe they thought, considering that Hamas was not coordinating or corresponding with Iran or Hezbollah before October 7, they might have literally thought, yeah, no, they're not going to do shit. They're not going to do shit at all, because the highest priority intelligence is, I assume, the people that they have on the inside, the people that they have that they are relying on for round-the-clock surveillance. And they most likely thought Hamas would never conduct a military operation like this without letting Iran and Hezbollah know, and therefore, with October 7, they just didn't think that it would be this. They did not think that it would be this large and with this many casualties in general. But yes, this of course shows once again that Mossad had deep penetration into. Again, what are you trying to say? Iran is currently striking Israel. So are you trying to say they stop and get eviscerated since they retaliated after, or start striking civilian targets that Israel have less restraint? Because, or are you just describing the situation? I don't know what to make of this analysis. You kind of stop midway after saying, listen, boop, what? Question, knowing how much the USA has to gain from Iran up, do you believe Israel truly made this choice on its own? No, of course not. chatters, make no mistake, I will never entertain silly baby shit attitudes. Okay? I will never entertain the baby-brained attitudes that you hear from mainstream press about how, you know, Israel was really over Donald Trump and how, you know, America did not give Israel the go-ahead or even literally help Israel conduct these strikes. Make no mistake, America and Israel are not separate entities. America and Israel are not two separate sovereign nations. They are one. This is why I always say simultaneously that Israel is an unsinkable aircraft carrier with its own espionage capabilities. But I also routinely tell you that Israel is like a state, And it's not like a state that is a nuclear sponge state, for example. It's not like North Dakota. It's not like South Dakota. It's the most valuable state. Israel is America's most valuable state. America would entertain blowing up South Dakota before letting Israel fall. Okay? It's not a vassal state. It is different than a vassal state. Israel is a fully blown, Israel is like up there with New York City, Washington, D.C., and California as a state. That is on the value metrics. Israel's value to American foreign policy is seen as basically is akin to New York City. Okay, Tel Aviv is like basically New York City. Two Israeli officials claimed to Axios that Trump and his aides were only pretending to oppose an Israeli attack in public and didn't express opposition in private. We had a clear U.S. green light, one claimed. Of course. By the way, yes, as I also said, Squirrel was right on this. Everything being done by the Trump admin now to push the turn on Israel Netanyahu line is pure misdirection aimed at reestablishing the element of surprise ahead of the attack on Iran, which requires both a sound operation at nuclear. For the attack to have at least some chance of success, it is essential for the element of surprise to be reestablished. Think about it. This person is a, whoa, what the little f, little baby f, mini f, mini f, mini f. Calm down, mini f. We're still here. Is a small f, chatters. Stop freaking out. Stop freaking out. Calm down. Now, remember. For the attack to have at least some chance of success, it is essential for the element of surprise to be reestablished. The fake negotiations in Oman with the Iranians, the motion of waltz, and the whining about neocons like the Saudi Arabia speech, the fake defeat against the Houthis, and all the fake leaks about how Trump is really very angry and feels betrayed by Netanyahu are all intentionally designed to create a feeling of passivity among the Iranians and the belief that the attack may not actually happen. Netanyahu's trips to D.C. was where they decided to adopt the strategy, and then immediately thereafter it was launched, and the Trump turn on Israel propaganda began in full swing. The entire media class is, of course, playing along with it, with their anonymous sources giving them leaks that establish and launder the narrative. Trump's trip to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf puppet regime is aimed at shoring up support among U.S., NATO, Israeli empire's Arab shield and consolidate inclusion of Syria's Erdogan-Jelani fascist puppets into it ahead of the attack. By the way, the reason why this is important is because they wrote this on May 14th, 2025, when every single person was full tilt talking about how, like, Trump is going to figure it out. Trump is going to actually fix the situation. Zay was one of the very few people out there that was like, nope, all of this is fake. All of this is a sham. And America and Israel are aligned on this. Israel doesn't do anything without the United States of America. Yeah. I told you the U.S. and the genocidal Israeli death cult were just buying time and using deception to prepare for the war in Iran. All the experts who bought into that bullshit and helped launder it should never be listened to. Zionist hegemony dictated that the war would happen. And when they say Zionist hegemony, they're talking about, like, America first and foremost. They're not talking about Jews. They're not talking about Israel. They're talking about America's ambition, okay? America's ambition in the region, its grand design for the region is inherently a Zionist one. This is precisely the reason why you have so many Christian Zionists that are in positions of power, that are ideologically super invested in this. That's why there are a million different tweets from Donald Trump from 2011, 2013, 13 talking about how, like, why aren't we bombing Iran? Why are we not bombing Iran? Asked President Trump if the U.S. was given any heads up ahead of the operation. Heads up. It wasn't a heads up. It was, we know what's going on. POTUS said he spoke with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday and plans to speak with him again today. So remember this. Remember all the anti-war championing that was coming from dumbass Republicans. I told you that it was all bullshit over and over again. And make no mistake when I say this. Make no mistake when I say this. Democrats would do this exact same thing. Democrats maybe won't do the same, like, you know, song and dance in the way that Donald Trump does. They wouldn't go about it the same way, but they would do the exact same thing. Democrats, if they were in charge right now, would be doing 100% the exact same thing, 1-to-1. Make no mistake. Anyone who tries to tell you that Kamala Harris will be different is a delusional moron. Do not listen to them. Why? Kamala Harris's own campaign aides have actually come out and talked about how they would be doing a better job defending Israel right now. Chuck Schumer has come out and launched his support. Chuck Schumer, a week ago, was complaining that Donald Trump was Taco Trump. He wasn't going to actually strike Iran. American foreign policy, as I have said a million times over, is uniparty. It is uniparty. There's only one goal here, okay? That's it. Make no mistake. I said this as well. I've repeated this a million times before the election, but we'll continue to say it. American foreign policy is uniparty. Israel rarely does anything without America's go-ahead. Trump was never a peaceful dove, but them war hawks let him lie like that, and Trump is a weak baby. Okay? I mean, look at this. Look at every single senator, every single politician, Republican and Democrat alike. Pray for Israel, 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 please. Pray for Israel. This is after Israel struck Iran, by the way. Not when Iran is striking Israel in retaliation now. This came literally minutes after. Minutes after Israel struck Iran. Kamala's campaign had attempted to outflank Trump on Iran and assail him for not retaliating against Iran further in 2020 when he assassinated Soleimani, and Iran in turn attacked al-Assad air base. A sign that Kamala would not have been any different was this woman was her national security advisor. The statement from Secretary Rubio conveys that Israel struck Iran without the umbrella of American support. While Biden twice deployed U.S. troops and resources to defend Israel against direct Iranian strikes last year, Trump isn't promising Israel defense against an Iranian counterstrike, though it's clearly planning for one. Grateful that successive Democratic administrations have provided Israel with the means to defend itself. This was Kamala Harris's, this was going to be a foreign policy advisor for Kamala Harris. What makes you think that Kamala Harris will be any different than Donald Trump? You guys are delusional. If Kamala Harris genuinely had a perspective that was even a little bit different than Donald Trump when it comes to Israel and defending Israel, she would have let it known. She would have let it be known right now. It's like an 80-20 issue. It's like a 90-20, 90-10 issue at this point. It's a 90-10 issue for the Democratic Party, and she still hasn't said anything about, like, why hasn't Trump actually implemented a ceasefire? I thought he was going to be a peaceful president. She didn't say any of those things. Why? She's no longer running for president. If she truly was this peaceful dove, as all these dickhead Democrats kept telling me over and over again, why has she not said anything? Don't let anybody move the goalposts on this, by the way. I'm talking specifically about Israel, okay? In terms of, like, mass deportation would still be happening under the Democrats, as this always has happened under the Democrats. It just wouldn't be as gross as it is currently with Donald Trump. But Democrats play a different role when it comes to deportations in this country. They play the role of calcifying right-wing white nativist immigration policies, as they did this past election cycle. What is this pointless discourse? Jesus fucking Christ, stick to who's in power? No, this is not pointless discourse at all. This is incredibly important discourse in this moment, because I'm a leftist, okay? And as a leftist, I have a lot of people that are on their own journey right now, a lot of liberals that tune in here, okay? And it is important for them to recognize so that they're smarter next time when they make an assessment. Okay? My job is to make sure that you're not fucking duped. Just as I said, when everyone in the media, including very smart analysts that I rely on, people who have direct contact with Hamas, who talk to Hamas, who release Hamas communiques like a drop site, they had a more positive outlook on this. Even they thought that Trump might present a different, alternative, more peaceful outcome for Israel's continued genocide in Gaza. When I said to Jeremy Scahill directly, I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't believe that. Why was I doing that? Why shouldn't I have just shut the fuck up and not offered analysis in that same way? Because this is my job. My job is to tell you sometimes hard to swallow pills so that you are better equipped in your analysis next time around. 90-20 issue. That's our big, beautiful himbo, always giving 110%. Okay, I immediately fucking turned around and said 90-10. Calm down. Trump spoke to Saudi Crown Prince MBS about the war between Israel and Iran. The Saudi state news agency said the two discussed the need for de-escalation and resolving all disputes through diplomatic means. Yeah, two dogs talking to one another. This doesn't mean anything, okay? Oh, we need to de-escalate. It's all fucking bullshit, okay? It is all bullshit. Every single one of the GCC nation states, including even Qatar, who has obviously a massive U.S. base that it houses, they are all full tilt in support of this. The joke in the Muslim world has always been that if Israel was a Shia nation rather than a Jewish one, Saudi Arabia would have nuked it by now. Okay? Those guys hate Iran a lot more than they hate Israel. They have to play this song and dance as though they hate Israel because their fucking population understandably hates Israel and Western intervention. Okay? They don't care. They like being monarchs. They know that American military will make sure that they remain monarchs, and also on top of that, freely travel between European countries and Israel and wherever the fuck they want to go, and they can get foreign capital to come into the country. They can whitewash and sport wash their crimes and play a role as loyal servants to American empire in the region. That is what the Gulf states do. That is not what the Gulf states used to do, but that is certainly what they do now. Okay? And those who do not play ball get thwarted. Okay? Those who do not play ball, even if they are democratically aligned, or even if they are democratically voted into power, like Mossadegh famously. Okay? Those who do not play ball in the grand design that Western powers have in this resource-rich region will be destroyed. Okay? You will be fucking destroyed. There was a coup that took place in Egypt because it had to happen. It was very scary. It was very scary to have a Muslim Brotherhood guy in power. Very scary for America's interests. Okay? Saddam Hussein being a fucking douchebag and violent all on his own was not the real reason why America had to take him out. Okay? Same with Bashar al-Assad. Incredibly weak tyrant. Okay? Incredibly weak tyrant. But in that weakness, there was opportunity for Iran to use Syria as a logistical supply hub. That is why he had to go. Iran is the final piece of the puzzle, which is precisely the reason why, since the fucking 90s, Benjamin Netanyahu has been salivating at the prospect of doing this to Iran. They gonna shut you down for that? What do you mean? Who is they, and why would they shut me down? I'm not saying anything that's like out of pocket at all. I'm perfectly cool, calm, and collected. I'm not actually, I'm not saying anything that's like even remotely fucking problematic. I'm not even saying anything that you can perceive as potentially problematic. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Here's Jeffrey Sachs.
Supposed to be another round of negotiations between the United States and Iran this weekend on the nuclear issues. Instead, Israel clearly, together with the United States, in advance, opened a war with Iran, despite the ongoing negotiations. There is no diplomacy.
Benjamin Netanyahu speaking live at ABC.
In Israel, we just heard from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking directly to the Iranian people, encouraging them to rise up and rebel, saying the Islamic regime has oppressed you for almost 50 years. We are clearing the path for you to achieve your freedom. Your thoughts, Matt?
You know, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Kira, has been pretty consistent with this message. He's done it, I think, 3 or 4 times before over the past couple of years, or at least year, in which he has tried to appeal directly to the people of Iran. And what Israel is hoping might happen is that the dissidents and the opponents of the Iranian regime might have enough courage right now to come out of the woodwork and try some sort of civil uprising against the regime. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen because the regime has slammed the door shut on any sort of street protests in recent years. But I think that that's what they hope happens, that this not only breaks down the nuclear and missile arsenal of Iran, but also the political weaponry of the Iranian regime. And, you know, I think Steve Ganyard mentioned this earlier, as did Martha. Israel did not go after political leaders in Iran. This appears to be strictly aimed at Iran's military apparatuses, again, missiles, scientists, the leaders of its military and headquarters. And that appears, and obviously nuclear facilities. And they appear not to be going directly militarily after the political echelons, but it does appear that Netanyahu wants that to happen if it is possible. And again, he's been consistent with this kind of message for years now, Kira.
All right. So, Selena Wang, let's take it to you at the White House. We understand now that
part of the reason why they're saying that they're not going after the upper echelon is because the upper echelon is clearly like, look, you know, this is, I don't want to fucking, I don't want to strike someone while they're down, okay, this time being Iran. But part of the reason why they go after the IRGC is because those are the dudes with the fucking actual motion. Those are the dudes who actually can issue penalties to Israel, whereas the actual the mullahs, the ayatollah, like they are not exactly popular leaders, and therefore they're them continuing to run the country is beneficial for Israeli interests in the same way almost as the initial assessment that Netanyahu and his coalition made about Hamas being propped up as the primary party responsible for Palestinian statehood.
They got hit about as hard as you're going to get hit, also saying that there's more to come. But the president today, Kira, he is signaling and holding out hope that Iran gets.
But yeah, they want regime change. They'll say they want regime change, but what they want actually is obviously not the Ayatollah, but they want to bring the Shah back probably. They're, you know, they want to do what America did in Iran initially. They want to do what the Western powers did in Iran initially.
Going to move ahead. So,
and there's plenty of people in diaspora, plenty of Iranians in diaspora that also would be willing to do that, would be on board to do that, which is really tough.
Sirens, air raid sirens going off in the northern parts of Israel as well.
You know what I think Iran learned from the previous 2 rounds of missile attacks against Israel, Kira, is that Israel and its missile shield is pretty well equipped to defend against Iran if they spread out the attacks, right? If there are attacks happening simultaneously in multiple locations. But what they figured out in the October attacks was that if they concentrate the missile fire on one specific area, Israel cannot defend that some of those missiles or pieces of missiles will get through, and that's what we saw today. So we saw them appear to concentrate on Tel Aviv, and now they appear to be concentrating on more northern areas, probably, and I'm presuming this at this point, but Israel's northern air bases in the country. And, you know, why has there been so much focus on Tel Aviv? Well, obviously, it is the population center of the country with, you know, about a fifth of all of Israel's population concentrated in that central area right along the coast in and around Tel Aviv and its suburbs. but also Tel Aviv itself. In the very heart of the city of Tel Aviv is where Israel's defense and military headquarters is based. And it's sort of a vestige of the 1930s and 40s when they started this base. And Tel Aviv was much smaller. The city expanded around it. So it may not.
So one of the judges, can we not watch IDF propaganda? No, we have to watch IDF propaganda.
To it, trying to target,
okay, of course we have to watch IDF propaganda
of the Israeli military and defense establishment. And not only is the military and defense establishment in the heart of Tel Aviv, but its intelligence establishment is just to the northern suburbs of Tel Aviv, only about 3 or 4 miles as the crow flies from that defense headquarters. So imagine if the Pentagon were in the very heart of Washington, D.C., right next to the White House, and then, Langley was next door, just across the river.
Listen,
so in Israel, everything is very...
All I'm saying is...
And it's important to remember that Israel itself is...
All I'm saying is the HasanAbi doctrine remains true. If Iran had actual nukes by this point, Israel would not be able to do any of this shit. This is not just my assessment. John Mersheimer, who's much smarter than myself, even if we don't completely align on our worldview overall, John Mersheimer is still a very important academic in international relations. He says if Iran had nukes, the region would be infinitely more stable. That is literally true. And anyone that says that is not true is only operating on the notion that Iran wants to develop nukes so they can use it against America, so they can use it against Israel, whatever, and not simply abiding by the same principle of mutually assured destruction that would make it a lot harder for Israel to strike Iran in the way that Israel is doing currently. No country, unfortunately, in the age of nuclear proliferation, no country on the planet can be a sovereign nation without nukes. I want no nukes. I want complete denuclearization. But in the absence of complete denuclearization, the only way that a country can maintain its sovereignty is if they have nukes, a nuclear program. This much is clear.
So Israel is able to fly over Iran now without really fearing for its pilots or its planes. It has complete supremacy of the sky. And the second thing is what you're noting, the change in military tactics that we are seeing develop.
What? Unlikely, I guess, but do you think anti-Zionist Israelis will rise up against Netanyahu for this? Fuck no. No. For Israeli society to actually turn around and get angry at Israel, as the Israeli government, for putting their lives on the line, they would have to experience a lot more of what Israel does to every other country in the region for them to finally turn around and be like, we are a pariah state in the West, and also simultaneously our living standards have eroded as a consequence of direct bombing. The entire missile defense system that Israel has, in unison with the American with the American defenses that are deployed in the region, would have to collapse. Okay, there is not enough of an ideological movement in Israel to push for anti-Zionism to begin with. There are far too little people in the state of Israel that are anti-Zionist. It just would not happen. Did Germans rise up against Adolf Hitler in the 1940s? They did, actually, by much larger numbers than the anti-Zionist movement in Israel. According to the German estimations, I believe 800,000 Germans were jailed specifically for resisting against Nazi Germany. So yeah, they had a much larger presence of resistance, much larger presence of communism as well in the buildup. Liberals still point to the communists and the resistance against Nazis from trade unions, communists, and socialists alike as a primary reason for why capital owners were forced to make this gamble with Nazis because they were too afraid of capitalism being thwarted in Germany. Israeli society is held together with this glue of complete domination of all of its enemies, and the fear, the fear-mongering narratives that like another Holocaust is imminent right around the corner, but this time an Arab Holocaust, like Arabs are going to do the Holocaust to us. That is the primary thing that keeps Israeli society together, And it is also the primary reason why Israeli society has gotten more and more right-wing over the past couple of decades and eroded civil liberties, for example, without even the liberal Zionists recognizing how or why this is happening, because they will never examine the heart of the contradictions within Israeli society, within Zionism, which is that it is a supremacist, fascist ideology that is built around the principles of exterminating the outgroup. That's it. If you don't tackle the root cause directly at the root, you will never understand why the Itamar Ben-Gvirs of the world dominate your politics all of a sudden. That's it.
One could assume that the stated goal is to destroy whatever Israel could destroy of Iran's nuclear program. If such is the case, then it wouldn't be bombing also scientists, also military leaders, Revolutionary Guard leaders, and so on and so forth within Iran, which is, of course, as you know, is leading to further escalation, including those scenes that we are watching now as Iran bombs Tel Aviv. So one could expect certain escalation moving forward, depending on the end game here. There's also been reports about Israel's end game being far more than the nuclear program, to actually contain and humiliate Iran back into surrender. A third possible scenario is regime change, that this is only the beginning of a continued military humiliation of Iran, coupled with economic sanctions against Tehran, as well as a destabilization program within the country in order to allow for a change of regime. Of course, as you know, the Israelis the past 24 months have made such threats, except now that they are in the logic of war, any one of these scenarios could be the end game, or all three of them could be the end game.
To that point, Marwan, there's something I noted down just within the last half hour or so that I saw.
Israel says Iran will pay a heavy price for hitting civilian areas. Here's the issue. If Israel retaliates and greatly escalates its intensity in its bombing campaign,
what can we read into that?
Which, by the way, they probably have the capabilities of doing so.
The logic that he thinks,
okay.
There's room for
if they were to do that,
if you remember,
I don't know what it will take for Iran to recognize that, like, Israel only responds to force.
To admit it. Clearly,
do you see what I mean?
Change of regime in Syria, right? Certainly, there was a movement within the country.
Like,
it wasn't exactly encouraged.
At this point, it's like Israel started this. Israel started this war, and it's very clear that they want to see it through.
Including attacks on Syria and weakening Hezbollah. To that, there's no doubt. So I think Netanyahu thinks there is room for regime.
The issue I feel about the retaliation strike is that now Ibn Sharmuta Bibi will have more war-calling voices in Israel. Dude, Israel is already maxed out. My friend, what did I tell you? The glue that holds Israeli society together is domination of all Muslims in the region. Okay? It's the extermination of all Muslim nations that have any semblance of sovereignty and any interest in resisting against Israel's complete exterminationist campaign. This is precisely the reason why the opposition forces came out in support of Benjamin Netanyahu on numerous occasions. When he was bombing Lebanon, and now when he's bombing Iran, every opposition leader, every liberal Zionist will come out and be like, nope, it's so fantastic that our big, beautiful, brave Israeli Air Force, which is seen as like the peak of liberal Zionism, the secular nation, the most secular elements within the Israeli society is considered to be the IDF. Okay, those guys, oh, they're so brave, they're so awesome. Look at how they've struck Iran immediately. Immediately, no matter what happens, like it's not like Netanyahu needs more support. It is the quickest way for Netanyahu to basically bring the entirety of Israeli society together. The moment that they strike Iran, everyone is on board. Iran has announced that they downed 2 F-35s and captured a pilot. Yeah, I saw a video. A video documents the Zionist pilot ejecting from the aircraft that was shot down by Iranian air defenses and his subsequent capture. I don't know if this is real or not. We don't have any confirmation. We don't have any real confirmation that F-35s have been struck. But given how much even the Houthis were able to, like, when I read the New York Times report, when I read the New York Times report on this stream, on this broadcast, of all of the retaliation from Yemen, from the Houthis, that led to America setting up a ceasefire agreement with the Houthis in Oman, I could not believe it. That they claimed that an F-35 was almost struck by the Houthis' surface-to-air missile capabilities. The fact that that was even a possibility, the fact that the latest generation of fighter jets that the American government has can be potentially struck by the poorest nation on the planet is unimaginable. Okay? Like, already, it renders the entire process of R&D useless. Like, the whole purpose of new generations of fighter jets is so that they are creating air superiority unconditionally. Okay? That is something to consider. Now, I don't know. I don't know if this is like, I don't know if it's true that they struck an F-35, but that is a big blow. That is almost as big as a blow as like the Pakistan Chinese defenses taking out the French fighter jets that India uses. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it is instantly, all of a sudden, the dynamic changes. Okay? It's like how drones are changing warfare. Yes, that too. Have never seen destruction like this in any previous Iranian attack against Israel. Previous focus on IDF bases may have massive levels of destruction there. The focus is on Tel Aviv, as the IDF focus on Tehran is producing devastating images that Israel cannot bury. Now, what will this do to the Israeli confidence is perhaps the only thing that I can think of here. Like, will this, and I don't know, maybe there's some Israeli HasanAbi heads in the chat that can confirm or deny this. Is this a moment of anger? Is this a moment of resentment? And is that resentment directed towards Iran and is only galvanizing the population for more war? Or is this like a first instance where Israeli society goes, hold on, we are no longer safe. We are no longer as safe as we thought we were. I don't know. I suspect that without economic pressure, without Israeli society recognizing their pariah status in the Western world and simultaneously feeling unsafe in Israel as a direct consequence of the Israeli government's actions, and recognizing that the Israeli government's actions and violence is bringing violence back to Israel, the Israeli society will never turn around and go, yeah, maybe we need to dial this back. Maybe we need to change course, and cause enough instability that they, you know, reconsider how they can dominate the entire region for the United States. Yeah, these are some of the images that Mossad's operational force on Iranian territory while deploying precision strike systems designed to destroy Iranian air defense systems. So basically, in order for their fighter jets